Yes, well, thank you for having me. It has been certainly a strange couple of weeks with everything that's gone on. And, I've seen people characterize it on Twitter, the sort of feud that's been going on with Candace, with Tucker, with Elon, with all these different figures. And I don't know that you would characterize it this way, but I've seen other people say this. They say it's infighting. And I don't really like that term because I don't think it does justice to what actually took place, which is that you and I were both really on top of this back in June. There was a war in Iran. It really all goes back to this, at least for me. And I think, you asked me to kind of take the 20,000 foot view, the 30,000 foot view. To me, the 30,000 foot view has so much to do with the populist movement, with Trump, and with the situation in Iran as it has unfolded over the past few years. So going back to June, you and I were on this. I was doing these big streams covering the war. I did your show. You were doing huge streams covering the war in Iran. It was blowing up. I do this show with Candance Owens, who I've had a little drama with her in the past. I've also helped her in the past. So we've had kind of a relationship which has been characterized by sometimes friendliness, but sometimes negativity. And without relitigating the entire drama, we do a interview in the middle of the war, and we don't talk about the war at all. We don't talk about Trump. We don't talk about, our cancellation, the Daily Wire, any of these things. She's pressing me about drama, things like this. Now, some people thought it was an interesting interview. A lot of people are disappointed in what we talked about, or maybe what we did not talk about. Needless to say, there was this big reaction to how she handled it and that it was behind a paywall, all these things. Then she goes on Tucker, and Tucker Carlson calls me a Fed. I do this big reaction stream to that. Clearly that accusation backfires. Now, I don't know Tucker. I've never met him. I've never talked to him. But he seems to, without watching my show or knowing me, he seems to think that he knows exactly what I'm about and made a very serious accusation. Not only did he say that I'm an asset of the left or of the federal government, he says, but I'm this weird gay kid in my basement from Chicago, and who is this guy and all this stuff. This backfires. And then a week later, I get Elon Musk replying to Milo, accusing me of being a Fed. And you take this whole thing together, and I wouldn't characterize that as infighting. I would say what that looks like to me is a coordinated attack. I think it stinks. I think it reeks of coordination because it's the same types of accusations coming from people that are all connected to each other. Elon replied to Milo. Milo did a show with Candace the week before. Candace did the show with Tucker the week before that. And Candace and Tucker did a show right around the time that she quit Daily Wire. So it's like all these people know each other. They're all connected and clearly talking in the same 2 to 3 week period. They're all saying the same things. And so it stinks to me like this is kind of like an avalanche. It's almost like a backlash against my popularity. And for me, the big question is this. I think everybody's assumption based on what has taken place in the past year and a half, ever since the war in Gaza, obviously there's this mass awakening about Israel and the influence of Israel and how that is detrimental to the United States, that we're being drawn into this conflict. We're backing a genocide. It's $30 billion in aid. It's World War III, all these things. And these figures like Candace and Tucker in particular, they rise to the surface and are elevated, whereas Tucker was at Fox News and Candace was at Daily Wire. Suddenly, they are these major critics of Israel. They're major critics of what's going on. Now, to the layperson, you would say, they're kind of meeting me where I was. I've been on this, as you know, for 10 years. I was known as the anti-Semite. I was known as the anti-Israel guy. Now, the layperson would say Candace and Tucker are kind of coming around. They woke up. They got red pilled. They're on the right side now. They're pushing the truth. And that's why there's this strangeness that it reeks of coordination. It reeks of this coordinated attack. And from the least likely people, you would think the attack would come from the usual suspects like a Ben Shapiro, a Charlie Kirk, who I have feuded with over the years, who are very pro-Israel, who are much closer to the establishment. That it would come from these relative outsiders that were jettisoned by Fox and Daily Wire in the past couple of years. that broke with that consensus view. For this coordinated attack to come from them is very suspicious. And I drew a lot of attention to that on my show, the suspicious nature of it, and said, maybe things are not as they seem. Now, as far as you're concerned, both Candance and Tucker. You had Candance on your show last week. I know you're good friends with Tucker. And, I saw what you said. I appreciated that you defended me from the accusation that I'm a Fed. But what I would say is this is sort of where I'm at psychologically. I don't know Tucker. I don't know Candance. I don't know her well. I've obviously met her and had my interactions with her recently. But I would say this. If they are good faith actors, if they're honest journalists, if they mean what they say and say what they mean, if they are who they say they are, maybe this is all just a big colossal misunderstanding. Maybe they legitimately have real concerns about me. Maybe it's not coordinated. And to that, I would say, why doesn't Tucker Carlson have me on his show? Better yet, why doesn't he talk to me on the phone privately? I don't need the clout at this point.
Well,
I mean,
the whole
feud blew up.
I'll shut up, but that's where I was going to go next. I can call Tucker and ask him, can you imagine if I hosted a debate even remotely and I'd be fair? That would be massive. Everybody wants that. I mean, I know Candance asked you for another debate, and usually, the person that loses, and I would say she did, wants, another one. But you and Tucker, that would be the new debate. You would accept that if I hosted a debate with you and Tucker?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you could call it a debate, a discussion, whatever you want to do. I would do a debate, absolutely, because, he made specific claims pertaining to Joe Kent. He said the reason that he's suspicious of me is because of my attacks on Joe Kent. And I've said this to you, and I've said it to Candance, and I've been saying it to anyone who will listen. In fairness, almost to the point of being a nuisance, I've told that story about Joe Kent for many years.
Even politicos, a lot of people don't really remember Joe Kent. Why don't you recap people that don't know then?
Sure. So Joe Kent ran for Congress in 2022, and he received some backing from Peter Thiel, and he had a mutual friend, Matt Brainerd. Matt Brainerd was his first hire on his campaign. He was a consultant. Brainerd was at AFPAC. He was at my convention. And long story short, Joe Kent attacked me in 2022. I initially supported him. I talked to him on the phone. We were going to send the Groypers out to Washington to help him. And out of a clear blue sky in 2022, he launches this attack on me and says that he condemns me because of my opposition to Israel and because I talk about race and religion. He said that my message does not fit with inclusive populism, which is his vision. Now, in response to his attack, I mobilized the Groypers to Washington, and the Groypers that were going to help him then were hurting him. And I said, we will not reward betrayal. We will not reward people that claim to be America first, but are really Israel first. We're going to make an example out of him. Now, Joe Kent lost. It was a major upset. That was rated as a safe Republican district, and he lost by like 1,000 votes. And so credibly, you could say that I caused him to lose. But I caused him to lose to make an example out of someone that says they're America first, but when the chips are down, they're really Israel first. Now, Tucker was good friends with Joe Kent, and they had this relationship. Tucker promoted Joe Kent on his show. And I think that Tucker blamed me for the loss. This is his friend. And he said, oh, you made my friend lose. What motivation would you have to see this guy who purports to be America first? Why would you want to take him out? And so Tucker then worked with Max Blumenthal on a hit piece in the gray zone. And that's where all this "you're a federal agent" accusation originated, was from a hit piece in the gray zone in February 2023, just a couple of months after Joe Kent lost. And, so maybe that's just a misunderstanding, but I have said repeatedly, I did not come at Joe Kent randomly. I didn't pick on him because he was great. I was supporting him. Then he disavowed me because I criticize Israel. Like, it doesn't get more on the nose than that. And so I would either like the opportunity to tell Tucker that or to debate about that. But for him to say that, I'm like mobilized by the intelligence agencies or by the left to take out Joe Kent because he's a legit fighter for America first, that's just not true. And, it's on Twitter for everybody to see. You could still find those tweets. They're still up there. And I've been consistent on that story for 3 years now.